ENHYPEN just dropped the intro for their upcoming album, which was just as interesting as all of the previous intros and outros that ENHYPEN has, which essentially tell their storyline. And it spells out a very exciting comeback for NGene. The album itself, Dimension Dilemma, was announced along with a release date for the music video and the album to actually come out. And they have a whole schedule for it, which is great for us. But this intro that they dropped ties really well in with what we know of the album so far, which isn't much since it was just announced if you're watching this in the future. And it makes sense because, you know, it is supposed to introduce the album. But let's look a little bit more about how that is. Also, this script ended up way longer than I expected, so... Hello friends and fellow sunflowers, my name is Lena and welcome to my channel. Dimension Dilemma seems to be the next series of albums that ENHYPEN is doing. So we are no longer getting the Border series, that's done with, and now we're working on the Dimension series. The subtitle, Dilemma, or Dilemma, I don't know, however you want to say it, also has a mirror in the logo with the letter M, which kind of feels a little parallel universe to me, just a little. And we've seen a ton of that, so that's kind of actually unsurprising. And in fact, the dilemma that they're probably going to be facing was introduced to us in the intro, where it tells us that to get the treasure, they have to go through a brooding monster or a swirling tornado, presenting the opposites of fire and water to the background of a spinning Bitcoin. Intriguing. Is the Bitcoin, the allure of money, the obstacle, or is it the treasure? I would argue that with the current themes that we're seeing from HYBE, like recently, especially with TXT, they're kind of pointing fingers at money. So I'm gonna say it's the obstacle, but I can't say for sure that ENHYPEN's not going in a completely different direction from TXT. After all, like usually when you think of treasure, you think of a treasure chest and it's got like gold flowing out of it and diamonds, things that would make you rich in terms of money and monetary value. And well, in ENHYPEN's story, there's definitely been a bit of an emphasis on the commoditization of idols and how they're looked at as product. And I do wonder if this is perhaps an extension of that. But now it's also presenting the idea like, well, if you want the money, if you want the treasure, you have to give up a part of yourself. Or you could even have a more broad stroke on it, where it's like, maybe the money isn't the important thing at all. Like I said, money might not be the thing that is the treasure that you could be reaching for. In ENHYPEN's case, they do seem to be previously reaching more for like immortality or the throne, that sense of power. So the line where it says that they need to give something up might refer to their mortality or humanity that they're sacrificing in the process. There is also a small shot in the intro that kind of looks like a crown, which ties into their previous thing with royalty and the throne. I guess like the modern day equivalent of royalty is being rich, like having all of the money and basically also all of the power. Since, you know, we know that the rich people are the ones who control everything anyway. Hence why they show Bitcoin and other currency like the Canadian silver coins that they show. Canadians represent. Since, especially right now, trading Bitcoin is associated with people who are wealthy. You know, like I'm pretty sure most of us have like 0 Bitcoins. It's just weird because there's like such an emphasis on like the Bitcoin, because that currency exists digitally. Like there's no physical Bitcoin really, which is exactly the theory of like a digital reality that is magical and on an island, which we'll talk about that. Also, Bitcoin was briefly pictured on TXT's The Loser Equals Lover music video. So just like in general with HYBE, why the sudden interest in Bitcoin? What are they trying to tell us? But you're like, wait, Lena, you didn't even talk about the other part of the album. There's 3 versions of the album. You did, Yes, there are. And the names are very intriguing. They are called... Oh, I need to look this up. How to pronounce Scylla. Skyla? It's Skyla? Well, that's fun. How to pronounce Odysseus.
Odysseus.
How to pronounce Charybdis.
Charybdis.
Charybdis. So I was saying all of them wrong. Nice! Good thing I didn't film it yet. They are called Skyla, which is a beautiful purple color, Odysseus, which is an orange color, and Charybdis, which is a blue color. Now, these are all characters in mythology, and this isn't the only time that ENHYPEN has referenced Greek mythology. We saw Apollo and Artemis guarding them in the up version of the photographs for Border Carnival. And there were possible theories that the girl that interacts with ENHYPEN in Drunk Days might have been related to Selene, the moon goddess, who's associated with the myth of the first vampire. Anyways, within the intro, we get a reference specifically to Skyla, where they used a microscopic image of a Hydra bacteria, which is a bacteria that is found in water. Skyla, by the way, looks like this, which is very similar to what they showed, indicating that we were probably meant to interpret it that way. She has 6 heads. That's great. She's also immortal, which is a thing just for ENHYPEN in general. Vampires, you know. And in some stories, she was shown to have turned that way because of jealousy, which I would be a little bit concerned of in ENHYPEN'S case. Skipping Odysseus for a moment, we get Charybdis, also a sea monster. It basically swallows huge amounts of water, belches them back out, and creates these massive whirlpools, which I think seem to be depicted in the lyrics of the intro as tornadoes. And it is also shown through various swirling imagery, which I think could actually double as our wormhole, but we'll get back to that. It's really interesting because people in social media have actually pointed out that ENHYPEN'S choreography might have like interpreted these sea creatures into their dances. So maybe we were getting hints about these monsters in the past albums as well. They clearly knew about it. Likewise, it might actually be referencing Shakespeare, specifically the story The Tempest, which does mention similar themes. But unlike the previous albums, I feel like it ties in a little bit less. But maybe people who are better with Shakespeare can let me know what they think about that. Also, I do believe that perhaps the What Do You Believe In video, which was a HYBE video in general, not just an ENHYPEN specific thing, had them kind of being hinted at this particular situation as well. I do think everything in that video was HYBE related and like storyline related, but it literally had them rowing a boat. Oh, the boat, by the way, was what Odysseus was riding. Yes, Odysseus, the 3rd version of the album. So basically he had to choose between one monster or the other. The idea kind of choosing like the lesser of 2 evils, which one is less bad. This, along with several other events, all happened to Odysseus after the Trojan War in mythology. This is all during the like 10-year period it took him to return home after the war. This journey has a lot of steps to it, which I'm not going to go into too much detail, especially like leading up to this, but let's sort of skip to the most relevant parts of it and let me tell you a tale. And this part of the tale kind of takes place towards the middle kind of end part. So just past the middle, but leading towards the end part of his 10-year journey. So let's start at the part that is most relevant with the 2 sea monsters. He and his crew must pass through this strait. And on one side is Skyla, and on the other side is Charybdis. Now, depending on the version of the story, different things happen, such as the way of mythology. But no matter what, in the end, Skyla ends up eating 6 of his men. That's a common, like every story tells us that, it's that specific number. It's always Skyla. However, in one version he chooses, okay, out of these 2, I'm going to face Skyla. Of course, they get away, but he loses 6 of his men. And in another version, he doesn't have to choose anything. They just decide to try to go straight between the two different monsters, and then Skyla kind of reaches out and grabs his boat and pulls them towards her and ends up eating 6 of his men. So yeah, I think that second one is the most common version, which works for us because I do actually think that ENHYPEN should also not try to fight either of the monsters that they're facing and maybe just go straight on through. Like, they're gonna have to find some form of middle ground and not like choose between the evils, but simply pass by. Same as Odysseus did in certain versions, if you forget that 6 of his men got eaten either way. By the way, Odysseus was the sole survivor of this trip home, because immediately after this, they come across the sun god Helios's herds of cattle. And I guess his men were very hungry, and despite the warning to not eat any of his cattle, his men decided to eat some of the cattle. I think it's just one. Anyway, they eat one, and Helios, the god of sun, is unhappy with that. He's very, very angry. And so he goes to Zeus and he's like, hey, you can't let them get away with this. You have to punish them. You have to punish them. And he's like, if you don't punish them, I'm going to bring my son down to the underworld and illuminate the underworld. I think this particular sequence of event is referenced by the line in the intro, the midday sun refuses shade. Zeus obviously doesn't want this to happen. I don't know what would happen if the underworld got illuminated, but I guess it's probably not good. So in order to appease Helios, he summons a storm. And it causes all of Odysseus's men to die, and Odysseus ends up stranded on Calypso's island. The midday sea that gives it all away. Zeus washed him away. Also, the whole island line, Calypso's island, I mean, although Calypso keeps him there for the next 7 years because she falls in love with him, so I mean, not sure if I would describe the island as fantastic or not, but hey. Anyways, I guess that Odysseus sort of lives up to his name, which means roughly son of pain, or his Roman counterpart, which is Ulysses, means wrathful. So the name was given to him as a way to represent the pain of life. And he definitely struggled a lot in life. So this also leads me to wonder if Odysseus's eventual return back home, named Nostos in Greek, might actually be a future theme for ENHYPEN as well. It is actually what he's most well known for, is the returning home part after the journey. And of course, returning home after, you know, a war, even though you're 10 years late, you still get elevated in status for having survived. And theoretically, that's why he's a myth in the first place. He made it. And if we equate this same idea to vampires and the transformation that we see ENHYPEN undergoing, it could be that, like, the successful transformation is their Nostos. They're returning back, but as something more than when they left. More than human. They're now bearing the sigil of immortality. It takes the themes of mythology, I think, and applies them to a more modern and ENHYPENified setting. So that kind of puts into perspective the lines that we saw before. In order to get the treasure, we've either got to get through a brooding monster or a swirling tornado. To get their immortality, or perhaps another goal or treasure that might be like member specific or character specific, they have to face many challenges. And yet, if the mythology that they reference is any indication, the right answer is neither. Or at least some balance in between everything that you find challenging. It's as they say, truly, whatever we choose, we've got to run. Are they running towards it or away from it? Also, doesn't that kind of sound like one of those prophecies to you? Like, in order to reach the treasure, you must face a brooding monster or a swirling tornado. I don't know, maybe I've read too much Percy Jackson. The outro for ENHYPEN'S previous Korean album, Border Carnival, was called Outro the Wormhole. Now, there are understandably similar themes between Outro the Wormhole and Intro Whiteout. Not only do we get the exact same footage of the same beach, but the lyrics of Wormhole talk about water and riptides and strong gusts of wind and multiple dimensions and stuff that is more, you know, ENHYPEN, Hype universe rather than Greek mythology. But it's definitely referencing both at the same time. It's kind of something they're known for. They're double speaking in a way. ENHYPEN has shown us that they have multiple dimensions, multiple universes, some of which may be accidentally coming into contact with each other, probably through wormholes, some of which are actually worm squares. But in the lyrics at the end of Outro Wormhole, we are asked, when we wake at this tunnel's end, what vision awaits? This is answered in Intro Whiteout. It's pure, bright, white light. Now, if you've ever looked into like theories of like black holes and wormholes and stuff like that, you'll know that on one end is the thing that sucks things in, that's the black hole. The middle part is the wormhole, and then the part on the other side that spits stuff out is called the white hole. And in a way, the two sides of the wormhole are mirroring each other, kind of like the word dilemma in the logo. Anyways, it's easy enough to think that the process of going through to Magic Island in Hype's universe, you know, where they end up on this island in the lyrics, is also the process of going through a wormhole. Let's see, it often starts with closing your eyes, creating that darkness, the black hole, and then you pass through the wormhole. Then at the end, you open your eyes, and it's bright, and you see an island. We stand in front of the most fantastic island in the world. TXT goes through the exact same process in their Magic Island music video. Here we also get references that kind of assume that wormholes can also be underwater, hence a lot of the swirling water images, but also with lines like cold water slaps against my cheek, and the image that appears to us only once we go under the water, where it gets that like chandelier that we've previously seen with the like carnival imagery. And of course TXT has had portals underwater as well. All of this just points to the fact that ENHYPEN are going to the same island as TXT. This same place that TXT has called Magic Island, where dreams come true and anything is possible. It's so similar that I'm getting chills. This process itself can also be symbolic, that you're leaving darkness behind and you're landing in a place where dreams are possible. The light, or in ENHYPEN'S case, the light that might turn red. Because, of course, the part that is strangely ironic about this is that ENHYPEN are supposed to be vampires. So I previously correlated the lines with the noonday sun and the midday sea to mythology, to Helios and to Zeus. But it's also just extremely opposite to the whole vampire idea. Noonday basically means noon, like the time the sun is the highest in the sky. But shouldn't the sun burn them? Interestingly enough, even the lyrics of Give and Taken reference the sun, which, well, let's just read it for a minute, shall we? First day morning, light shining, eyes of the sun. That light burned me, that light blinded me. But I go now, follow my dreams, dive into red sun, no lie. Wait, sorry. Are you telling me that the first day after they were turned, they ended up seeing lights shining, perhaps bright white lights that blinded them? And then the eyes of the sun, the noonday sun refuses shade, which they dive into the water that we see, the riptide reflecting the red light of the red sun. The midday sea gave it all away. I don't know, but it sounds to me like Give and Taken, their debut song, might actually be describing the events of the wormhole that took them to Magic Island, and it's equating it to the vampire transformation. Added to the fact that some of the next lines say wandering in the woods of questions, which Magic Island is heavily associated with. It's literally got woods in it, and as well as the like psyche and subconscious is often compared to a forest. So, and remember, Magic Island reflects your subconscious. I didn't say that in this video yet, but I'm saying it now. And then them diving into the red indicates their reality as becoming vampires, like them going back to reality. The choice that they've made. Remember, Odysseus, in some versions, had a choice between monsters to face. One is the wormhole, the tornado, the whirlpool. Possibly an option that we've already seen, and interestingly one that Odysseus himself never faces in the myth. The other is the brooding monster, the Hydra-like monster with multiple heads that always ends up eating Odysseus's men. 6 of them, to be exact. Aren't there 7 members of ENHYPEN? And wait, Odysseus, wasn't he the only one to survive the trip back? What to choose? What to choose? A dilemma, I must say. Now, I don't know how directly that is going to, you know, be shown in the music video or the comeback in general. Since with Border Carnival, like they had like this whole intro with the carnival and stuff, and then they interpreted it differently in the music video. So what we're seeing here and being told here might be like either a parallel universe or another dimension, but I do think that it kind of happens to every version of ENHYPEN, regardless of the dimension. They still always have this choice, and just kind of depends like what they choose, maybe. So it might be similar to what we're seeing here. After all, it is the intro for the album and the comeback as a whole, but it might not be the same, and I just wanted to like clarify that, because there's a lot of setup for this that goes really deep and really exciting. If you've seen my previous videos, I've talked about how there's kind of like a whole versus each other thing, like half the team's kind of versing the other half, especially visible in like Drunk Dazed and stuff like that. Nikki and Sunu, for example, both seem to have their own reasons to kind of want the throne that are not exactly the same, and they're kind of doing different actions towards that goal, which might be the treasure that they've mentioned. So maybe they do want to remove the other 6 members. I don't know. But I just want to say, disclaimer, the language that is used in this particular intro is we. Not you, but we. All of us, as in teamwork. Everyone together. I could see this going in a couple different directions. The competition kind, the teamwork kind, or the yet another wormhole kind, or something else that I just haven't even thought of. And I'm very, very excited to see where they go with this. But what do you think? Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it kind of helped you get hyped for the comeback. I have so many questions and I can't wait to see all the different versions of the album. I'm gonna try to make a video on that before the music video is dropped, so keep your eyes open for that. Make sure you're subscribed for that with notifications turned on so that you're notified every single time that I post a video. All of my social media is linked in the description below, and of course I wanted to give a shout out to my patrons over on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for your support. As it is, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay sunny, my friends. Bye!